y'all, it's Hope at Crafty Hope and welcome. It is week 15 of hashtag Crafty Hope prompts, which is my project that I began to work on building up my own personal prompt deck. I am using a deck of regular playing cards, and since there are 52 cards in a deck and 52 weeks in a year, I'm just creating these weekly. I have enough prompts to draw 3 prompts a week, so it's 156 prompts that are in this can. I have that full list below if you want a list of 156 prompts for your mixed media needs, or you can play along with me. Either way, I ask that you use the hashtag Crafty Hope prompts, and whether you're starting now or you've been playing along, just use that and find inspiration when you can. So, I hope that was thorough. I'm trying to cut down these introductions. It's time to draw 3 new prompts for week 15. So I'm going to put up my weeks 1 through 14 cards up and work on card 15. Y'all, I'm having trouble with this. I can't believe I'm that far along on it. So each Monday I draw my prompts, I alter my card, and then on Saturday I'll have a larger project, and that can be just about anything mixed media. So, you know, if you find something that interests you, you don't have to make a card. You can do an art journal page or a tag or however you want to play. All right, let's draw these prompts. I'm going to go and pick out red. Okay. I was wondering when some of the colors would come in. So there's red. That should be fun. I don't work with a lot of red. So, and with red, you can do that way. You can do red paint or red pencil or pieces of red paper or sprays, or what else could be red? Anything can be red. Find a quote that has the word red in, seeing red, something like that. So yeah, red. All right. Let's go with number 2 is handwritten, and I've got letter in there. So I'm thinking like an actual handwritten letter. I have several of those, so I will pull something like that out. So I don't mean my handwriting, I mean somebody else's, some kind of ephemera that I have, but you could do it your own way. You could do some of your own handwriting, or I've got a stack somewhere of notes like teenagers have written that I have found in like parking lots and things like that. A recipe with handwriting on it would be neat, or something inside a notebook, an old journal entry. I've got several, what do you call them, like autograph books, even the inside of an old yearbook with something handwritten on it. Those kind of things is what I'm thinking of. So you can do that your own way. Use some ephemera you have, or a stamp maybe that has handwriting on it would be neat. So interpret that your own way. These prompts are meant to just inspire you, and maybe use some of the materials that you are hoarding like I am too. Okay, so those are prompts 1 and 2. Let's find prompt number 3. Oh, they've stacked up again. All right, prompt number 3 is cheesecloth. All right, that's pretty straightforward. Cheesecloth you can find at most grocery stores, sometimes the Dollar Tree. It's sketchy sometimes about that. But if you don't have cheesecloth, like a flour sack towel, or some of that creepy cloth that you can get around Halloween, some kind of loose knit like fabric is what I'm thinking of. Even a tulle might work. So, or again, just be inspired by the idea of cheesecloth. It doesn't, if you don't have that, that's fine. Just go with the cloth part, or just some kind of fabric-y textural element. And you can use that anyway. You can put your cheesecloth on there. You can use it as texture on maybe a jelly plate, or through a stencil or something like that. So, red handwritten letter and cheesecloth. I am going to pull out my card here and pull out a couple things to go with that and get started on this. I'll be right back. I'm back. So I took the prompts red handwritten letter and cheesecloth and pulled out a couple things for red. I've pulled out some red ink, a red Posca pen, red thread. I even pulled out a couple of red buttons. What else did I get? Oh, I found in my digging this piece of, it was a jelly print with red paint on it, for handwritten letter. That's exactly what I pulled out. I've got a handwritten letter here and here. And then I found this, some kind of handwritten list. So that counts to me. So those are handwritten. I don't know which I'll use yet. And then cheesecloth. I just grabbed some cheesecloth. I started to grab some that had been rust dyed, but I thought that might clash with the red, that orangey. So I didn't go for it. And I've got some collage papers and Mod Podge, and I'm going to get to it and try to bust this out. Obviously, I'm going to start with some collage because that's how I start all of these. I like to do that simply because it gives me more of a, I guess, a better surface because the playing cards are coated and they're very slick. And so by putting down some collage, I've got a better surface to work with some of those other materials on. I am using some matte Mod Podge. I kind of regret that. Y'all, I forget all the time. I like Mod Podge because I use it for all kinds of stuff. But when it comes to something like these playing cards, it tends to get a little sticky once I try to like heat it up. So yeah, it's not always the best material. Something like a matte gel would have worked a lot better. So just my tip. If you want to keep the structure of the card, you can always sand it down just a little or apply some gesso, either clear or a white gesso. Or a black one would work too. So I've sped this up quite a bit just so y'all can see. I've put down two of the letters I think that I had pulled out along with some book pages and some of that jelly printed red paper. So, and now I'm going to trim it. And y'all, I got a little slap happy with the trim, and two of my corners I like took part of the card off with me. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just have trouble cutting a straight line. I don't know. And I guess that's not a straight line because I was going around the corner. But so that front, or I don't even remember which side ends up being which side, but that one side that I just did ends up being a bit more collage than the second side. I decided I didn't need quite as many layers on the second side. So I'm going to put a bit more, but I'm trying to make sure for the most part that I cover up all of the card. I don't want any of that lamination card poking through. That's going to give me a hard time with if I try to put something down that maybe won't stick to it. So that was just my idea. But I'm trying to also make sure I get like that red down because I'm not sure how I'm going to bring that in later. But just in my collage, I've brought in red and handwritten letters. So that's, what was the other prompt, y'all? Now I can't even remember. Red, cheesecloth. Tuh, y'all. It's been a long day. So once I get those two sides done, I'm going to go ahead and just to give a little movement to this, I grabbed my Stabilo all pencil in black and just scribbled around on that one side of the card. And then I've got this walnut ink. I just made this for my prompt project for this past week. I actually pull in a couple things that I used in this past week's prompt project because they were still sitting pretty close by. But I'm using that walnut ink just to see kind of how it does because most of the time if I want something brown like this, I use my coffee. And I don't know, since I had that walnut ink made, I thought that's what I'm going to use. So I put that on there and got this really kind of fabulous grungy background. So I knew I didn't need to accent much more to this. So I went ahead and grabbed that cheesecloth, clipped off a bit, and then I've got this bowl of typed up pieces of index cards. Y'all will see where this comes from on Thursday in my thrifty haul. You might, if you pay attention to my Instagram stories, you might have seen it as well. But Thursday I'll have a thrift haul video that shows where these come from. But so I found this one little phrase here. What does it even say? I don't know. Oh, it's something about you'll never walk alone, I think is what it says. So, and I decided I was going to put buttons on there, so I couldn't put just a single button because then it's alone. So I'm going to end up putting two buttons on there. And so I pull out my red embroidery thread because it's what I had out. I could have used something else that would contrast more, but it works on the red buttons. And I'm going to cut out my threading and tying a knot with my thread. I had some problems with that, so I took all that out. And I'm going to tell you, trying to stitch, and right here I thought maybe I was just going to stitch some X's on here instead of putting the buttons on. But stitching on cheesecloth, y'all, is fiddly as all get out because the holes are so big. yeah, I couldn't trust it. So I was like, you know what? We'll just have that as that little X as an anchor on here, and I'm gonna stitch these buttons on. So yeah, real quick stitch one of the big ones and one of the little ones and decide that's all I really need for this. And I'm going to admit to you, I'm not real happy that I added the buttons because I was trying in general to keep my cards fairly 2D. I didn't want anything too bulky or bumpy so that when I use them later, they don't catch on each other. But yeah, it was too late. I went in with these buttons and couldn't stop myself. I love them too much. So I'm going to ink up the edges of that cinnamon I've got there with just some Distress ink and walnut stain, just to give it a little accent. I'm going to try to do a couple more things here that I end up, I don't know, it messes it up a bit. You can see that that card still kind of blends into the cheesecloth even with that inked up edge. So this is not my favorite of these prompt cards, but it's got elements that I really enjoy, like that background there with the walnut ink and the Stabilo and the layers of paper. It's fabulous. And even the little bit of cheesecloth on top is nice. I just think some of the choices I made here were not the best. I'd love to know what you would have done to get this, to accent this. So as you can see, I've pulled out that 3D gloss gel. Again, that's something I used this past weekend for my prompt project for week 14. And I'm just using it because I knew it'd be a quick way to stick down that cheesecloth and my sentiment. And I was toying with the idea of cutting my sentiment down into two, so it'll say "You'll never" and then "Walk alone." But I liked it as the full sentiment. And like I said, I didn't like it wasn't, I don't know, accented well on there. So I go around it with that red Posca pen. Only too late to realize that it really doesn't work great on the cheesecloth. So I kind of dot it on the cheesecloth and it's not fabulous. So I'll grab the Stabilo All and use it instead around it, and that gets to be a mess too, but it's fine. I mean, it's still there. It looks good. It's just not. It wasn't the best choice. I'd like to know how you would have done it if there's like if you have a suggestion of some way that could have been accented on top of that cheesecloth a bit more. So. And I'm going to blot up my excess water there with one of the pieces of handwritten letter. And I think I'm going to just go ahead and flip it over and start working on the other side. Because I was like, if I keep messing with this, I'm just going to mess it up. So really on this side, I just need to add my 3 prompts. But I'm going to go ahead and add a little more red using that Posca pen and a couple just marks on here just to, like I said, get a little more red on here. And then I was like, well, I need to add the cheesecloth too. So, because I've got the red and I've got the handwritten letter, so I'll pull out a little more cheesecloth and I'm going to do something I haven't done before and I kind of like. It goes a little sideways on me, but it works out kind of cool. So I'm going to pull this cheesecloth down and use my Oohoo glue stick to just get some sticky on that card. Oh, and you can see I'm pulling that cheesecloth to separate it a little bit to like make it as open and wide as possible. And yeah, just rub that Oohoo glue stick everywhere and stick my cheesecloth right down into it. And I'm going to do a couple layers of this with just some of the pieces that are sitting there on my desk. Yeah, just whatever I trimmed off and I can find that hasn't disappeared into the abyss of my desk. And I'll hit it with the heat tool real quick just to dry the stickiness of the glue. But you see my prompts are sitting right there, so they're just going to blow away. I was kind of mad at myself because I was afraid I had lost them. Ooh, yeah. Girl in a rush. Y'all, I was not thinking. All right, so that cheesecloth is all down. I trimmed down some of the excess that was hanging off. There went my prompts. So, and I realized I could see where they were, so I kind of left them while I got messy with the walnut ink again. So I just put a couple drops y'all saw, and I've got a wet paintbrush. I'm trying to pull it out, but it's not doing everything I want. So I use my distress sprayer to just let it bleed. And y'all, I put a ton of water on there. So I'm going to grab a a towel and kind of blot up some of that excess water, which does take a little bit of the color away, but leaves all of that texture from the cheesecloth there. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and dry that as much as I can. I'm going to tell you, I never quite got it dry and ended up having to air dry even when I stick these down. Now I'm going to do something here again that I regret. Y'all, I was having trouble with the words and the sentiments. So it was where I was my losing battle. So I decided to grab a Distress ink in Fired Brick, I think is the color. It's just the red that I have. And I'll use that same cosmetic sponge and just go on top of the words, which at first I thought was great. But there was, like, it clashed with the other reds on the card or something. I don't know. I was just not digging it. But I'm going to glue it down anyway. I'm doing this to all three of them, trimming them down. And then, yeah. And I think that's going to be the bulk of it. I'm going to grab, when I get these all down, grab that Stabilo All pencil in black and just go around the edges to frame it up because the edges were still feeling awful white to me, the edge of the card, not the words. I'm going to leave them as they are because since it is on top of that cheesecloth, again, it has all that texture that I felt like was going to be too much of a battle to try to, I guess, use a paint pen or a pen or something. I suppose I could get a paintbrush and try to go around it, but there's too much of an error I think I could get going into that. So I don't know. So I'm looking at it real hard there. I do grab a pen and write the number 15 on there just so that I remember that this is card 15. And I'm trying to make sure all of that's sticking on, and I am going to go around this and then activate that Stabilo, and that will be it for this card. Like I said, there are bits and pieces of it I really like, and I think these three prompts are fabulous together that I know I can come up with something. I'm just going to have to think on it a little bit. I am looking forward to how you guys, or how y'all, interpret this and what you do with these three prompts. If you like this, make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and let me know if you have any questions or suggestions. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.